Good evening, Demon fans, and welcome to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and what a massive day it's been for the Melbourne Football Club. A once-in-a-generation player leaves the club whilst we welcome a few new faces. We'll talk about all that and a little bit more later tonight, because shortly we'll bring you our interview with outgoing Melbourne Football Club CEO Peter Jackson. But first, I'll introduce you to my co-host, Great Viney, and see how he's coping with the news of Jesse Hogan leaving. Good evening, Great Viney. How are you?
I'm a little bit heartbroken, to be truthful, Andy. Head says the Hogan deal is okay. I like what we've brought in, and I think it makes the team stronger. But, can't help but feel a little sad to see the back of Jesse after 6 years at the club. A lot of goals and a lot of promise about what was to come. So, big day, as you said.
Yeah, it's going to be hard seeing Jesse in a Fremantle jumper, I must say. But you know what? There's not much we can do about that, and we're going to talk about that trade and all the other trades a bit later on. Demonland's tech guru, Nasha, will be joining us a little bit later in the show to help us wrap up the trade week. If you would like to join our program later tonight, and I really would love it if people would call in and give their thoughts on all the trades. We'll be going through them one by one. You can call us on 0390163666 or Skype us at Demonland31. I'll give you those numbers a bit later on when we're ready to take calls after the Peter interview. If you're listening to the show live, you can join us in our chat room where you can ask questions or post comments, and you can do that by heading over to demonland.com/podcast. If you're listening to this later on via SoundCloud on demonland.com or via iTunes or an Android podcasting app, be sure to subscribe to the show, and you can receive updates when a new show drops. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Demonland31, Twitter @Demonland, Instagram @Demonland31, or just search for Demonland Podcast on YouTube and listen to all the other interviews that we have conducted. Or join us on demonland.com at the forum, and you can chat with other D's fans and argue about trades till the cows come home. But I think what we'll do now, we'll go straight to our pre-recorded interview that we did with Peter the other day. So here goes.
Peter, welcome to the Demonland podcast. Thanks for your time. Congratulations on the retirement. You said at the BNF that a good CEO knows the right time to hand over the reins. Why are you pulling up stumps now, and how tempting was it to stay on a little bit longer given that we're so close to going all the way?
Oh, look, I'm sure it was the right time. No doubt about that. I mean, people don't believe how old I am, which I'm privileged to say, but I'm 66 next February, and I think you've got to be younger for this game, and I think it's important to know when the right time is, when to hand over. Football's not a job as such; it's a way of life, and it's sort of 7 days. It defines everything of who you are. So you got to know you can do it all that time. So I think that's the first step. The second step is waiting for a premiership. I mean, these things aren't easy. This game's a really tough game, and you've seen. We really hope that the team will go on next year, but whether they go on and then perform on the day, all sorts of things can happen. You can't hang around making decisions about leadership based on hoping to hold up a premiership cup. I mean, you get just as much enjoyment and satisfaction sitting in the grandstand watching them win it as actually standing there holding it. So, I'm pretty clear about that.
Fair enough.
Peter, you came to the club at its lowest ebb at a time when the likes of Jeff Kennett were calling for us to be relocated to Tassie. What would have happened if this latest rebuild had failed, and was there an existential threat to the club at the time?
Look, I think it was fair to say the club was at a very low ebb. I wasn't there for very long before I worked out that I didn't think it was, a real threat. I thought it just needed some straightening up into some certain positions. I mean, one of the most important thing I noticed when I got there, and I've said this publicly on a few occasions, you walk into an organisation, you want your people to be your very best, and if you looked around the organisation, we didn't have key people in key roles that had success around an AFL environment and knew what a success was. So we had to bring people in. And the thing about bringing in a guy like Paul Roos, he was never going to make the difference on the field in the time frame that he was going to be there. But what he did was he offered a lot of stability and time and hope. Supporters like yourselves, if Paul Roos is there and you believe he's doing his best, his reputation is such that he's going to do all the right things. And if the thing takes longer to work with someone like Paul there, then you start to understand that this is a bit of a rebuild that's got to happen. It's not something that can be fixed overnight. And then what also happens is you get people like that, then others get attracted to your club. So you gradually build up the numbers of very good people who know what AFL football's all about. And if you look through the football department and the football club now, you can see the place is full of those sort of people. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think behind all of that as well, you could see that there was a commercial opportunity. You just weren't getting the best out of the numbers. People had deserted the club, which is fair enough under the circumstances of poor performance. So we got the footy team back playing, and we made some decent commercial decisions. I never thought the club was in threat, but I could understand how supporters looking from the outside might have thought that.
Peter, we made steady year-on-year progress up the ladder since you took over, but there were plenty of hiccups along the way. Did you ever have real doubts that it might not come together, or think to yourself, what have I got myself into here? Some of those
never. No, I can honestly say never. And I think, look, I talked to someone on media last week, and I think people need to understand what's involved in getting a club. And I know Melbourne supporters are frustrated because, there was rebuild, and then there was a rebuild, and then there was a rebuild. So I get that part of it, but I can only talk about the rebuild that I was involved with. I can't talk about others. But I was talking to someone on the media last week, and AFL talking about giving priority picks to some clubs that aren't performing now, to my mind, is just a band-aid solution. It doesn't solve anything in the longer term. These things take a minimum of 5 years to turn around, because you've got to, as I just said, you've got to get the right people into the club, and then they've got to build the right list, and then you've got to develop. And that list is going to come in the main from the draft, not from senior established players. So then you've got to develop those kids. First of all, you've got to get the right ones, then you've got to develop them. And so I think it's absolutely extraordinary what the club's achieved in a 5-year period in terms of putting the list together and then developing them, which I did say at the best and fairest. And but people have to understand clubs take that long. There's no short-term solutions. There's no silver bullets or whatever other cliche you want to use. It's a long haul, and you look to the long term. You don't get worried about the hiccups as you describe them, because that happens in footy. When you've been around footy this long, you know that hiccups are on the way, and they happen all the time. But it's the long term you got to keep your focus on. And I never had any doubt about that.
Paul Roos was a crucial piece of the puzzle on the road back to respectability. At the time you persuaded him to sign on, he was adamant that he wouldn't coach again. Who else was on the shortlist, and how important was Roos's imprimatur in terms of giving the team and the club the breathing space to get it right, because a less senior coach wouldn't have been given the same latitude by the media?
No, that's exactly right. I think what Paul did was bought some time. I mean, he came in when we'd won 2 games, and in his first year we'd won 4. If you think about, for example, having put Simon Goodwin in then, and we won 4 games, everybody would be, well, what's going on here? Because people didn't quite understand how the depth of the challenge it was facing with a player rebuild. So, if Paul, with his reputation, imprimatur, sort of gets that, people go, well, yeah, we've got a bit of a problem here. We're going to have to wait and be patient. So he was really critical for that. And as I said before, he gave other people the faith to come in to the club, like Simon Goodwin himself, and other assistant coaches that he brought in and are still there now. Benny Matthews, for example, and then Brendan McCartney came in later. So those people think, well, the club's on the right way, heading the right way. I can come into this club with confidence, whereas they may not have done that, 2012, 2013. So Paul was critical in that regard, absolutely.
Was there a plan B if we couldn't secure Roosie?
Oh, well, we had started a process and we're interviewing others, but we were always looking at a more senior coach for those same reasons. But some senior coaches want to coach forever. That's what they're passionate about. So to talk to other senior coaches about coming in with a plan that involved handing it over was not always well received by seeing other guys looking at the role. But it never really came to the fact that we looked at Plan B, by the way, because we had started a process. We ran a couple of interviews, but then Roosy decided he would get involved. So the process really never took place.
Petey did a remarkable job of completely changing the entire culture of the club. You spoke before about bringing in Roosy and bringing in the right people. What were some of the other things that you immediately identified that needed changing when you arrived at Melbourne?
Well, yeah, I think I've sort of touched on it already. The most important thing was to build the right people there, and I mean, if I look for people to come into any organisation, I mean, it's basically intelligence and character. If you've got those to start with, intelligence to do the job and the character, the resilience and the ethics, the standards to do the job and operate the way you want people to operate, then you're off to a great start. So that was one of the most important things. If you get those mix of people, there you get we talk about weight of numbers. So the reason I went for Paul Roos in the first place is that he had started this process up in Sydney, and I think Sydney have had an outstanding performance over the last 20 years in terms of their culture and how that's turned into football performance. So the fact that Roosy started that process up there, well, he was going to help start this process up down here as well. So then if you build weight of numbers around him, around me, and what we believe in and how you should do work, then the culture changes through those people, their own standards and behaviours, the way they operate. So you get a weight of numbers, as we like to say, of people who want to operate a certain way, and then that gradually weeds out the wrong people and brings in more of the right people. And so you accumulate a group of really good, talented people, and it really just takes off from there, to be quite fair. I mean, that sounds very simple, what I just said, but that took 3 years to get to that position. And, you got some of the best people in your list management team now who have, I think that's one of the outstanding things that needs to be commented on and needs to be understood by Melbourne supporters, because between, say 2007 and 2013, you had plenty of opportunity to pick talented young players, and we didn't do it. And when you look at the people like headed up by Josh Marnie, and then you put Todd Viney and Jason Taylor and Tim Lamb and Kelly O'Donnell in there, and all those sort of people who actually know what football's all about and pick kids based on character, competitiveness as well as talent, you end up with a list playing the game the way you guys want it to be played today. So, that it all sounds so simple and straightforward, and it actually is simple and straightforward, but it takes a lot of time to put those people together and then get those results.
Take us through your thoughts and emotions watching the elimination final against the Cats. There's 91,000 at the G, the majority of the Melbourne supporters, the team's playing ferocious finals footy. It was a special night for many reasons. You must have felt a real sense of accomplishment. Yeah, look,
I felt, we all felt really good for the fans, because you've done it so hard for so long. And, Melbourne Football Club, with the history and tradition that it has, and, people going back generations watching this team play, and so disappointed in the last number of years. I mean, it was as much about the fans as it was about anything we'd done. I mean, because the football club is owned by the fans, and they're the ones that pay our salaries and turn up at the turnstiles and buy memberships and those sorts of things. And without them, we can't do what we do. So, to me, the greatest accomplishment of that night was seeing 90,000 people come into the MCG, 2/3 of whom were red and blue. And that also vindicates what I was banging on about to the board for so long, about how you solve the commercial future of this football club, and that's build a good football team. Like the old saying, build it and they will come. Yeah. Well, they came, and they came again the week after, and I'm sure they'll come next year as a result of that. And if they have the faith and the respect of their footy team, they'll keep coming, and that's the way you build a commercially strong football club. It's that simple. So really, I did watch a replay of the game afterwards, by the way, and I was watching the crowd more than I was watching the football because I already knew what had happened. And Channel 7 did a fantastic job, I think, in the way they broadcast the crowd as well as the game. And there was that one particular incident after Mitch Hannon ran down the flank and kicked the goal, and BT was at his consummate best. And I don't know if you've watched all this, but the way the Channel 7 cameras just panned back and picked out the northern stand, and sort of that's the accomplishment, seeing that image and those people, and a lot of different faces as well, if I can say that. We've been talking for 3 or 4 years about introducing new people to Melbourne, to the Melbourne Football Club, because it's quintessential Melbourne, it's quintessential Melbourne culture. Come down to the Melbourne Football Club, watch the club team play at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, and if you look at that crowd and that the Channel 7 cameras, you'll see a lot of diverse people in the in the crowd, and I just think that's fantastic as well. So things are looking bright for the future in that regard, I hope.
Yeah, we actually surprised at the crowd number that night, the strength of the Demon numbers, or did you know that there was that dormant?
Well, we knew it was coming. We knew on Tuesday it was coming. We sold more Melbourne tickets through, despite the Ticketek debacle. We sold more Melbourne tickets in the first 30 minutes than Richmond bought. So, wow. which was interesting just to see, and so we knew it was coming. But the fanaticism, the excitement, all of that was what we didn't know who they were or where they came from, but we knew they were coming. So it was great. It was fantastic. That and the week after.
It certainly was. Peter, we've seen really solid year-on-year improvement in memberships. What's the potential for future growth on the back of finals and regular September appearances? What number should we be aiming at?
Well, that's a hard one for me to work out, because I don't actually know how big the Melbourne supporter base is. I mean, it's at the smaller end of the spectrum. There's no doubt about that, and we already have a massive conversion rate. Like people have told me, we've got 250,000 supporters. So if you've got 45,000 members, that's already one of the two highest conversion rates in the competition. Add to that there's another 10,000 MCC people who are MCC members but are passionate Melbourne supporters who don't take up the joint membership. So you're really sitting with 55,000. So it's really hard to know whether there's more people who are going to come out. I think, the excitement that was built in September, the run home, I think attracted a hell of a lot of attention. I think there's a lot of people, coming into Melbourne who might want to pick up AFL football in Melbourne. I think they'd naturally pick up Melbourne at the moment because of what happened and the excitement around it. So look, I don't know what the opportunity is. In terms of hard traditional numbers, I'm not sure there's too much left in terms of conversion, but in terms of new people coming in to the city and coming into AFL ranks, I think and younger people coming in, I think that there's unlimited opportunities. So yeah, can we get to 60,000? Possibly. I don't know if we'll do it next year, but I think we should get to 2019, 55,000 perhaps. But I'm not sure you're ever going to get to the scale of the Collingwoods and Essendons, but that doesn't matter. What matters is people coming to your games and sitting on seats and watching games. That's where it really matters. Is
there any way to convert the MCC members? I mean, I'm sure that's a conundrum that's faced the club for years.
Yeah, but they're very valuable. They're very valuable to us. I mean, there's about, in round numbers, there's about 20,000 people that in the MCC members who are staunch Melbourne supporters, and half of those take up a joint MCC-MFC membership, and I think it's been like that for 10 years and hasn't moved. So it suggests the other 10 aren't necessarily going to sign on. But they turn up to the football every week, and if they turn up and come into the MCC, we get the benefit of that commercially. that gets paid into the gate. So they're still very, very important to us, those people that turn up, because it's just like anyone turning up and sitting in the Southern Stand. We still get paid for them turning up. So, look, it'd be nice if they converted to joint membership, but it's also really nice that they turn up and watch the game every week.
There was a fair bit of media attention surrounding the appointment of your successor and suggestions in some quarters that people weren't happy with the process around that. You would have known Gary Pert for a long time in footy. Is he the right man for the job?
Oh, he's an experienced CEO who's been running a big football club for a number of years, 10 years or so. I wasn't involved in that process. The board ran that process, and they ran an exhaustive process, and they made the pick, as boards do. That's what they're there for. Yeah. And I'd be confident that they ran that process properly, and they've made a decision that they think's the right decision, which is fine. So it's not up to me to judge, make any opinion or commentary about that sort of thing. I don't think that would be fair or reasonable. So the board made that process. It's their responsibility and their obligation to do that, and they've made the call that they think's right.
Fair point.
And I'm sure he's. If you look at his experience and his history with Collingwood, he's done a very good job over most of that time. So I'm sure the football club will be good, in good hands.
What can you tell us about the proposed new training and admin base in Yarra Park, and what are the chances of having it approved by the relevant authorities?
Well, it's an opportunity that was brought to us by others. It's the building itself sits over the top of the railway tracks as a concept, so there's no building as such within Yarra Park at all. All the building is outside of Yarra Park. It looks like a fantastic opportunity for the club. It looks like an opportunity that could set up the club for the next 50 years, depending on the commercial terms which the club could secure that site. And that's really, really important, because to be a successful footy team on the field, you need a very strong commercial foundation to keep the club sound. And you guys who've been following this club for a number of years would know that we've had those problems, because we've been wandering around looking for sort of different types of facilities, never had a constant home, and never had a strong commercial base for a facility. So it could potentially set up the football club for the next 50 years, which means your children and grandchildren could continue to watch the footy club, and I think that's really, really important. And the only thing that's in Yarra Park itself is an oval. So, I mean, when people sit down and think about that, there's already a couple of ovals in Yarra Park now. One's called the MCG and the other one's called Punt Road. But, to actually level out a bit of the area up there, which is not the best area now as it is, and upgrade it and to just have it used for sort of 6 to 10 hours to have footballers train on it, and the rest of the time it's still open to the public, is not a huge impediment. There's plenty of precedents both in Melbourne and around the world for this sort of thing. Faulkner Park's got playing fields in it that get used from time to time, and some of the great cities of the world have sporting facilities within their parklands within the middle of their cities. So it's and that whole area is surrounded by massive amounts of parkland. So really, I don't think we're asking too much in terms of the oval, and we'd probably even upgrade. People would see that the Yarra Park itself was upgraded, and there'd be community benefits attached to all of that, and improvements done to all of that. But all the building is off Yarra Park. It's over the railway tracks. So I don't think I think if anything, we could realistically argue with our hand on our heart that we'd actually improve a part of Yarra Park rather than actually detract from it at all.
Peter, we're very grateful for your time. We've got two more for you. Aside from continuing to win games, what does the club need to keep doing to maintain the momentum that we're generating on and off the field?
Doing more of the same. I think that the biggest thing is you can't. It's an interesting thing. The football team is the biggest driver of commercial success of a club. A club can't be strong and sustainable without having a commercial strong commercial foundation. So they go hand in hand. So a couple of those decisions interact, whether it's the facilities and other things, and we've got out of gaming and what do we use that for, the funds out of that. And I think the biggest challenge that I think comes for the footy club in the future, and I'm only guessing here, is what I call noise. The expectations with the football club next year are going to be massive now that's what's happened this year, absolutely massive. And we've been saying ever since I started, you can't have linear success in football. By linear, I mean straight line improvement year after year. We have. And I think we're up to this year, one of only 2 clubs that have ever done that in the last 5 or 6 years, and the other one was Adelaide. And they crashed and burned this year. So, they probably have some challenges for other reasons, but just sometimes football, you just have those sort of years, and players have those sort of years where it doesn't all go well and you come off a bit and people get a bit frustrated because their expectations were so high and their hopes and dreams were so high, and then they get all frustrated and annoyed. And that's the one thing that causes some problems for some developing clubs, and Geelong saw it in 2006, and other clubs have seen it. Like if the Giants were in Melbourne right now, they'd probably be under siege, but they're not. So they're out in Western Sydney, so no one really cares. And I just think, I just hope supporters realise that this is a really hard competition. What's been achieved so far is fantastic, but we've still got a way to go. I think this team will be successful. Whether that's 2020 or 2021 or 22, it doesn't. They're still very young footballers. And 2019, I'm hoping they'll play in a grand final. I'm hoping they'll win it. But if they don't, we're still on the right path. And I think there's a big future for the footy club. So it's really the noise, I think, that's the thing I would worry about most. And how the club might handle that if that sort of scenario did eventuate.
Peter, one final one for you. We had a listener interested in getting into sports admin. What's your advice for someone looking to follow that path?
Gee, that's an obscure question. I get a lot of people asking me that, but I look at them across the other side of the table and see how old they are for starters. And so if they're young and they think they want to do it, I tell them to go out and learn somewhere else in some other industry and come into football a bit later. But other than that, you've got to be in the right time at the right place. You got to know people. You got to get around, and that dreaded word called network. You got to get to know people and make sure that they think you're a good fit. And when an opportunity arises, you get considered for it. So it's a great industry to be in, as a legitimate career now. There's no doubt about that. And football and sports administration generally is seen as a professional career opportunity. So it's a great opportunity, but getting into it's not easy. And you've got to get into it at the right level, which is if you're in a management position at a middle or senior management. So get around and try and meet as many people and convince them that you're a person that can fit into the industry and make a difference.
Peter, I'd like to thank you on behalf of all Demon supporters for turning this club around. You raised the club up from the ashes on and off the field. We're profitable off the field and more competitive on the field. Thank you for giving us your time to talk to us tonight, and congratulations and good luck with your retirement.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see a lot of people in the grandstand 2019.
Absolutely.
We'll be there for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you guys.
All right, thanks
Peter.
Well, that was Peter Jackson, and thank you to Peter for giving us his time. Very good. I really enjoyed speaking to him, and it's quite enlightening.
It's a shame he's got to go. Talk about losing Jesse. I think the bigger loss is Peter Jackson. It's not that I don't have faith in Gary Pert. Obviously, he's a very experienced operator in the industry, but you just think back over Jackson's time, and really, from my perspective, he has not put a foot wrong. during one of the most challenging times in the history of the club. So feel like that the umbilical cord has been cut, and we're gonna miss him.
We certainly will. I'll introduce our other co-host for this evening, Nasha. Good evening. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. Good evening. How are we?
I'm very good. Welcome back to the Demonland podcast. Been away for a while, but good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
I'll just before we get stuck into the trades, I'll just give out our phone numbers. If you'd like to give us a call and give your thoughts on what went down today and over the past week and a half, 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666, or you can Skype us on Demonland 31. All right, so well, I guess we'll go through trade by trade. Well, we'll start with the biggest one that happened today, and I guess we'll discuss it just on its own for the moment, and then we'll discuss what we did with the picks that we received. So Fremantle received Jesse Hogan and a fourth-round draft pick, number 65, and we received a first-round draft pick, number 6, and a second-round draft pick, number 23. And just keep in mind that prior to that, our first pick was, I believe, number 36. So we did get 2 picks before our original first pick. Well, Grapevine, I'll start with you. Do we win or lose? What happened? What happened with that in your mind with that pick? Did we go unders for that?
Look, I don't get caught up in that kind of talk, and I know lots of people do and don't on Demonland. Josh Marnie seems to have the nickname Over. First he rolls over, then he bends over, and finally he pays overs. Okay. I don't agree with that. I like the strategy. The club has looks obviously at it in its totality. Losing Jesse is a big loss any way you look at it. These things can't be judged in isolation. And the club's looking at it at the whole picture of what's coming and going. So,
Nash, I'll throw it over to you. Just that trade in on its own. Your thoughts on it?
I think I agree with Grapevine for the reason that it was intended. I think the club did this deal because of the opportunity to use those picks. I tend to think if we didn't believe May was available, we wouldn't have gone to the lengths that we would have to get this trade done this year. I think part of the decision to trade Jesse in the first place was because there was that further opportunity to on-trade the pick. So to that end, I agree that you just can't look at it in isolation because I don't think it was done in isolation. So, look, I'm pretty happy with the outcome. We've got to be happy with, well, we don't have to be happy, but I'm happy to see Stephen May come onto the list. I think he'll add a significant amount to our side. We definitely needed to trade ourselves up in the draft, having spent all our top-end currency last year on Jake Lever. And I fully agree with the sentiment that it's sad to see Jesse go. By the same token, I think it'll be nice to not have this distraction every single year that the talk of his contract seems to bring to the club as well.
So we'll talk about Jesse Hogan leaving. There's lots of stuff going on around, flying out there about this. Do you think he came to us wanting a trade? Do you think we've moved him on to get away from that distraction? Do you think we saw the writing on the wall, for 12 months' time that he was going to leave? So we thought we'd be not reactive, we'd be proactive with it and sort of move on and get the best deal we can get for him now.
It's really hard to say because I've changed my mind a dozen times, I reckon, over this whole saga about what I think's happening. Marnie has said several times in the media that it was Hogan's suggestion. I have no reason to think that he would lie. I think if it was the club, the club's idea, he just wouldn't say anything. I think it was Hogan's idea, with the club probably not quite so reluctant to go down that path as it might have been in the past.
Yeah, I agree totally with that, and also agree with the sentiment that I've changed my mind more than a dozen times about what's caused this and what's really going on. But I think another factor to that would be that once Jesse did express even the slightest interest in possibly going back home, that I think the club might have then thought to itself, well, you're not as desperate to succeed here as perhaps we need you to be, and thus you become perhaps a bit more expendable than you might otherwise have been, and than your talent otherwise suggests. We talked about this last time we were on, Andy, that I'm just suspicious that I just can't fathom how he could have sat through the elimination and semi-final wins and then walk away from the club and the success that's sort of imminent. So, I wonder whether the football department thought the same thing.
Yeah, look, it's hard for me to sort of judge him on that go-home factor because I'm in a totally different situation from him. I'm not living away from home. I'm with my family. So it's hard for me to see that. But I can't fathom. I mean, that pull must be really big for him because I can't fathom how he wouldn't want to stay with this team that's on the cusp of something great. We should be pushing for top four next year and then having a tilt. Why he wouldn't want to be a part of that and why he'd want to go to a team that I still see even after this trade period, I can't see them finishing anywhere other than bottom four, bottom six at best, even with Jesse Hogan in the team. So I don't know. I don't know why, and that rings alarm bells to me. Just that, or maybe the pull is he just wants to go home, and if that's the case, I can't begrudge him that. And let's try and get the best thing we can. Do you think
the thing we've got to
his
remember
personal
though? Sorry,
and what's happened
but
the
thing that
one moment,
have to,
guys.
Sorry, go on.
Nasha, you go ahead, and then Grapevine, you can reply.
Yeah, sorry. I was just thinking, I agree with what you're saying with regards to it's being a bit of the timing's a bit of a surprise. He did re-sign with us twice at least though when things weren't so good.
Yep.
So I don't know how to reconcile those two. You wouldn't have thought that the pull from home is any greater now than it would have been before. So that just makes it even more confusing, the timing really. And I think it comes back to the point that in the past, our attitude, the club's attitude would have been more, please don't go, we need you, you're our great white hope, all that stuff. I wouldn't say that to him, but that's kind of the thought process. Whereas now it's like, it comes back to the point where I think the reason it happened now is because the club was more willing to let him go.
Yes.
And
particularly with Tom McDonald's, his emergence as a key forward. He played the same amount of games thereabouts as Jesse, performed better. Sam Wiedemann's emerging. He had a great sort of first couple of finals and looks to be something that's going to be really good, but still, he's still young and still developing. So I think from the club perspective, they saw that and were sort of happy to sort of oblige him. Grapevine.
Yeah, and look, Destroy All's just said in the chat room, doesn't his mum live in Adelaide now? And I don't necessarily know that it's a family thing, but I do wonder, and I suspect that maybe his priorities changed over the past year, given the various personal challenges that he's had, and things just might have changed in his own mind about what he wants out of life and out of footy. So, we don't know, and it's hard to reconcile from the outside when you don't know what's going on in his head. So, just wish him luck going forward.
Yeah, best of luck to Jesse Hogan. I'm sure we'll all be looking at his career as he goes forward. Best of luck at Freo, but not against the D's, obviously. So, watch his
It's
pace.
surreal, isn't it? Because he was one of the first pieces of the jigsaw to be put in place in terms of the rebuild. And we thought it was going to be a long-term relationship, but it's not.
Yeah, someone in the chat room, D. Fard, has just mentioned Jesse's praise and gratitude of the MFC and its supporters this evening was fantastic, and I actually have that post that he posted to Instagram. This is from Jesse. Thank you to everyone involved in the Melbourne Football Club. I can't thank you enough for your unconditional support, care and love over the past 6 years, the last 2 especially. From the supporters, coaching staff, and of course the playing group. I honestly don't know where I'd be. I've reached the stage where I feel it's best I put myself around my family and friends and have a fresh start. I'm disappointed to be leaving the D's at such an exciting time and can't wait to see what the group of special players can achieve in 2019 and beyond. But at the same time, I'm extremely excited to start my new journey at Fremantle. So that's what Jesse had to say. Look, that obviously that answers it. That pull from home is outweighs that wanting to be a part of what's about to happen at the D's.
Yep. Yeah. Nice touch. I thought.
Yeah, I did too. Very classy. Good luck, Jesse. We'll move on to the trade that sort of came basically on the heels of that one, and it was everything. It was all hinging. What we got for that was hinging on what happened next, and so we received both Stephen May and Kade Kolodjashnij. I hope I'm getting that right. I still don't know. And Gold Coast received that pick 6 that we got now. Before trade week, we assumed that the Kade Kolodjashnij trade would go fairly early and would probably be a swap between some either late second round or third round picks. That wasn't the case. We got a 2-for-1 deal. I think, look, we were always going to on trade that pick for Stephen May, so to get Kade in there for free. Effectively, was a nice touch, and we also assumed there'd be a swap of some later picks in there, but there wasn't. Nasha, thoughts on that one? You sort of touched on Stephen May, but you can maybe include Kade in that if you want.
Yeah, I think he's a player who's talented. He's undoubtedly talented. Had a horrible run with injury. I think there's nothing to be lost there at all. Particularly when it appeared at the end that he came completely for free. I was expecting a low value pick to be used, and it wasn't even that. He just came as part of the package with May. So, yeah, sweet. I'm happy with that. And yeah, as you said, I've already touched on my thoughts on May. I think he's a huge addition to our side, and definitely is going to fill a crucial need that I think was evident, particularly in that West Coast game, but at various stages throughout the year.
Well, our biggest deficiency, I think, throughout 2018 was in the back line. We were bleeding goals at many times during the year, and that possibly cost us a top 4 spot. So that fulfills an urgent, need that we needed to correct. And I think when you add, we've lost Jesse. Yeah, he kicked 50 goals, but if you look at it, that we've brought someone in that, all right, he's not going to stop 50 goals being scored, but he's definitely going to shore that up. And I'm quite confident in the 2 forwards we've got now, plus our smaller forwards, that we can cover Jesse. I believe at the end of the year, were playing a lot better without Jesse in the team. It's not to say that I would move him on for that reason, but I'm quite confident that our forward line is fine. And let's not talk, well, what if so-and-so goes down with an injury, because that can happen to anyone in any team. And that's always going to be a big loss if it happens, and you can't forecast for that. But I'm quite happy with bringing May into the team. Grapevine, thoughts on that trade that happened this afternoon after the Jesse trade?
Yep, happy with all that. I suspect that Gold Coast and Melbourne had a separate deal ready.
Yeah, it was ready to go, I believe.
For KK, if the May thing didn't go ahead, and that would have happened. And was probably all ready to go, but didn't need to be used in the end. So, in sort of that totality of getting, getting ourselves back up the order and bringing in 2 players that are required, very happy. I agree that May will be a really strong addition to a backline that needs him. I don't agree with the suggestions of some on Demonland that this means Oscar McDonald is going back to Casey.
No, not at all.
Under no circumstance is that going to happen. I suspect Frost will, though. So, look, yeah, I think I'm excited to watch us play next year.
Do we... go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to
ahead.
say that I agree, and I see May as a direct upgrade to Frost. Similar sort of attributes in that they're big, strong, fast defenders. Who can also drive out of the back line as well as defend. But just a better footy brain. You probably give away a little bit on size compared to Frost. He's not quite as tall, but he's 102 kilos, so he's a big boy, and just the footy brain improvement is a big step up.
What are you boys imagining our back six is going to look like? Have you had any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess it's a combination of those 3 talls, Lever, Frost and Oscar. Then you've got Nev, Hibbard, Salem.
Yep.
I'm thinking.
Yep, I agree. And then, you got guys like Frost. He can come into the team to fill a need. Frost might even go on to a wing. I don't know. It depends on his disposal.
There's also Lewis in there.
Well, that's right. Can't forget Lewis and Kolodjashnij.
And Kolodjashnij either playing off half-back or a wing. So, huge addition to the strength of the back line.
And I'm hoping Kolodjashnij is not going to be just a set of steak knives thrown in. I think there's something that he'll add to that, and I hope he gets an opportunity early on to sort of show what he can do. And no doubt, if he's fit and ready, they'll play him, in the pre-season, and we'll go from there.
He's got talent.
To be a
his
best
issue
22
has been
player.
injuries and the concussion. And perhaps playing in an ordinary side, but even still, I think he's performed pretty well when he can get out on the park, and finished second, I think, in the BNF a couple of years ago. So,
and was a number 5 pick, I believe, in 2013.
Yep.
So kid can play. Nasha, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, apologies. I keep talking over
That's
the top
right.
of Grab.
That's Skype's fault.
I expect him to be a best 22 player. He's like you've already touched on. He was a top end talent as a junior, and he's actually showed that in his time at Gold Coast as well. It's just been the concussions and the lack of continuity. I've got high hopes that he's going to be a classy halfback / winger for us. And as you say, not just a set of steak knives, but a valuable acquisition unto himself.
Yeah, I agree. I've got a little short clip that the Melbourne Footy Club posted of Stephen May, sort of his talking directly to the club, the supporters. So, all right, let's see how this plays.
G'day D's fans, Stephen May here. Just want to say I'm absolutely stoked to be on board and be able to wear the red and blue next season. Thanks so much for all the support I've received already on social media. You guys have made me feel really welcome, and I just can't wait to get stuck into season 2019. Cheers. G'day D's fans, Stephen May here.
We don't need
You've already said it once. Calm down.
That's Instagram for you. But there you go.
I thought he was live on the air talking to Demonland 4276.
Yes, well, you know what? That Maxi made that joke in the BNF speech about Demonland. What was it? 4276. Yeah, and I went to start up an account of Demonland 426 as a sort of parody account, and someone had beaten me to it. So.
That was Rod Grinter Riot Squad.
Yeah.
Who changed his name on the night of the BNF.
Yeah.
But he's changed it back now, so it should be available.
Okay.
And it's a shame that no one's got that avatar yet. I actually thought the whole website should have changed its name to Demonland 4276.
I didn't think of that, but maybe for April Fool's Day we will. Maybe later on we can just quickly talk about the BNF. I just wanted to make mention later. I'll talk about bloody Skype. One sec. We do have a caller. One sec. Good evening. Welcome to the Demonland podcast.
Good evening, it's Binman.
Binman, good evening. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Terrific interview. I think I've got a bit of an echo, though. I can hear myself repeating. That sounds better.
That will probably resolve itself. It's probably a Skype thing. Hopefully it does resolve itself. Is it still happening?
No, but I have a history of repeating myself, as can be seen on my posting on Demonland, so maybe it's an ironic Skype thing.
All right. What did you want to talk about? Which trade in particular, or a group of them?
Look, I guess the big one's Jesse Hogan. I think really I'm very much in agreement with all of your positions, sort of what Nash had said. I mean, I think one thing I would like to say is that I'd be really disappointed if there's sort of a turn on Jesse Hogan. One of the things that I didn't like was the sort of some of the, rumours, not, some of it was on Demonland, but just generally in the public that was sort of rolling around about maybe the club wanting him out and, some off-field issues and that sort of thing. And, maybe that's normal human behaviour to start sort of turning on people you think have turned on you. But, I think it's hard to change the fact that he's I think the best forward we've had since Schwartz before his first injury. And so there's nothing, really that's going to replace it. I think May is a terrific pickup. So now's as good a time as any. I think we're in a good position to cover the loss of Hogan, but there's no question it's a loss.
Definitely.
Couldn't agree more.
I was watching on Fox Footy their trade show just prior to this show, and they rated our trade period as a B. But having said that, afterwards one of them, I think it was Brad Johnson, predicted us to finish first, and the other guy predicted us to finish third. So so there we get a B, and still think we'll finish in top three. So hopefully that happens.
Well, B is pretty good, I think, and I mean there was another. I mean, it's sort of you see some of this through the lens of Demonland, I think, in terms of some of the critique, and I'm not sure, it's fairly sort of one-eyed fans on Demonland, I guess, but I mean, some of the critique of Moni, is it Moni? It was strange, I thought, because if anything, I think our reputation has been enhanced in the last couple of years, where I heard 10 minutes of the trade radio earlier on, and Wallace was saying how, straight shooters we are, we do deals, we don't leave things to the last minute, we get them done. And I think that his stocks have rised quite a bit, and it was interesting. I thought it was a fascinating interview with Peter Jackson, and there was some talk about him having a succession plan in mind for his role, and that Marnie might have been that person. So that he sort of response to the excellent question about Perth, which I thought was a courageous question, was really interesting, I think.
Yeah, Grapeviney, do you want to answer that in terms of the Pert question? I think you mentioned that he played it with a straight bat.
Yeah, which I think is a bit telling in itself because had it been a ringing endorsement, it would have been a ringing endorsement. So anything less than that raises suspicions, I guess. Look, I don't know how to judge Pert. He's been at Collingwood. They're a very successful club. I think his time included the changes to their facilities. So he's got experience in that aspect of it, and certainly growing membership. So they're two things that are important to us right now. But for me, their question marks just remain around how it got done, I guess. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
I was going to actually ask him at the time, did he want to be involved in it? But he sort of made it he said that it's a board's decision. Yeah,
hard.
Exactly. He was nice enough to give us the time, so I don't want to sort of, hound him to the point. Particularly when he did say it is a board's decision. So yeah, not an investigative journalist. So.
And I wonder whether I would suspect that he's, as a good leader, he spends all good leaders invest time in people who work under them, and Josh Mooney's style, I think, he's always been a straight shooter, but I wonder whether some of his approach is hard but fair in the last couple of years, and his sort of public stuff. So I think we did really well. I don't know enough about Kardashian. Is that his name?
It's Kolodjashnij. I think.
Right. It's not one of the Kardashian clan. But he has what we need, and I think it's probably no surprise that I think our so-called weaknesses down back is overplayed a bit. I think May will be terrific. Of course, he's a terrific player and will be better at Melbourne than he was at Gold Coast. But for me, our biggest weakness is our poor kicking, and has been. I've said that when I've called it previously, and not so much our outside run, but it's that really, the poor kicking that we just have too many poor kicks. So I'm really hoping. Apparently, he's a good kicker. The bit I've seen of him, I don't watch other clubs all that much, but I'm certainly hoping that they bring in some good kicks through the draft.
Yeah, agreed.
And just on that, I like what we've done with trading up in the draft order, the packaging of those picks this afternoon.
Yeah,
so,
I'll mention that now.
Yep.
So we gave St Kilda pick 36, which was our original first pick, and we gave which was a late second round selection, and we gave them our third round draft selection, number 46, and we received 28. So I believe that leaves us. We've got in the draft now. We've got 23, which we received in the Jesse trade. We've got 28, which I mentioned we just received from the Saints for the pick swap of 36 and 46. We've got 54, which was an original pick of ours. We've got 62, which we received from the Kangas from the Preuss Tyson trade, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And pick 91. So we've got 5 picks. So
is 54 the McDonald pick, or is that 53?
That we got for Tom McDonald.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
and Oscar.
Yeah, they were both the same. Unfortunately, Super Mikado isn't on the podcast tonight.
That was 53.
That's 53.
53.
That's 53.
Yeah.
Right.
Missed it by that much. All right. But yeah, our original first pick was 36. So I think it's good that we did trade up in the draft order, and now we've got 23 and 28, which is sort of second round picks. And considering we got in May with that May and Kolodjashnij with that pick 6.
And Taylor's got runs on the board in picking good selections in those 20s and 30s and even 40s. So
what were Spargo and Fritsch last year? Fritsch was 31.
Yeah.
Spargo went before him, didn't he? So that was also in the 20s, I would say.
And Grapevine, I was going to say that exactly that point is, one, he's got runs on the board, but two, he's got clear strategy of identifying players that he wants to get. And they're like, Fritsch was probably more an obvious one, but Hannon wasn't so much. And I'm assuming he got Vandenberg, didn't he? Wagner, who hasn't been quite as such a good pickup, but he certainly identified him. He's sort of got, he targets players, and I mean, Fritsch was a really good example. He targeted, even though we got Watts, who was a good kicker, he targeted a player with really good kicking skills. And so I would be very surprised with that pick 28. They've got that number because they've got their eye on someone that potentially other clubs do, that they want to get up in front of it. So, someone maybe a 21, 22-year-olds in perhaps in the VFL or in one of the other state leagues. And I think a point that Nasha made about the whole thing about overs and value, I think really has to be seen in the sort of at the end of the process. With Fritsch, the discussion about Fritsch, about Watson value and all of that stuff, and really, when it all washes through, it doesn't mean a great deal.
Yep, agreed. Well, I'll keep you on, Bin Man, because we'll talk about the next we'll talk about the first trade that went down. We received pick 65, which was a fourth round selection for Dean Kent going to the Saints. Boys, I'll start with Bin Man since you're our guest at the moment. Dean Kent, a big loss, not a loss at all. What's your thoughts there?
Somewhere between the two, I think. I really like Kent. I was sitting above. I can't recall if I said. I think I might have said it when I called in, but I was sitting above where Kent collided in the first couple of minutes of that. It was which game was it? Was it the GWS game where he injured himself?
Yeah, I think so.
And it was a huge hit, and you could see straight away he was in trouble. And, I think he was really unlucky at Melbourne with, just his injury run, and that one in particular, because he certainly would have played finals. And then who knows? I think he added something. I heard his manager say that he wanted to play midfield, and he was never going to get into the midfield at Melbourne. So, I wish him luck. And I always liked him. He always had a bit of zip, and I love left footers. So, not a huge loss, but I think we can certainly cover him.
Yeah, I had I'll let you go in a second, Asher, to say that, but I had a St Kilda mate who SMS'd me when that trade was about to go down. He said, "What's Dean Kent like?" And I said, "Well, I really like him when he's fit and on the park, but unfortunately he didn't. I think he only played 9 or 11 games in the last 2 years, and I think that speaks volumes. And good luck for him trying to get more minutes in another team. Good luck to him. So I liked him, and I'm sorry to see him go, but I didn't play enough. Didn't get enough games because of injury, and some of it was really unlucky, like you said, Big Man. But some players are just always injured, and he seemed to be one of them. Nasha, thoughts?
I was just going to say, all things being equal, I think we would have kept him. He's capable of being a best 22 player. He's worth giving another year to, but we were sort of left no choice when St Kilda offered him 3 years. I can't. To me, it beggars belief that they would offer him 3 years. Firstly, they've got to get him fit enough to be able to play midfield if that's where they see him playing. He's got to be able to, just not get injured as often as he does. And I know some of that's bad luck, like that last shoulder injury. But they've taken a huge gamble. If I was in Josh Marty's shoes and Dean Kent came to me and said, "Well, you've only offered me 1 year. St Kilda have offered me 3," I'd be saying, "Okay, good luck then." So all things being equal, I would have kept him, but I don't think that was an option that was available to us really. So we kind of really had to just trade him for what we could get.
Grapevine, any thoughts on that trade?
Ultimately, no great loss for mine. As you said, he's only played the 9 games the past 2 years and hasn't done a whole lot really in those games. I'll be forever grateful for the goal against West Coast that secured September. And for that, I wish him well in his future endeavours. But he needs to, I think he needs to completely change the way he approaches his football if he's going to be successful. I got question marks about him.
Yeah, I'll watch his career sort of through one eye as I have a look at the Saints, but I'm not overly upset. I've just read down the bottom of this trade tracker from the AFL. It says, MB, no trades are official until paperwork has been accepted by the AFL and formally recognised after 2 p.m. on Thursday, October 20. Well, that must be for last year because Thursday is October the 18th. So it seems like it's not... Jesse could still be a demon. But,
Pro D had a suggestion in the Farewell Jesse Hogan thread that we should start getting in his ear about a possible return in 3 years' time or 4 years when his contract runs out.
We'll just go back to Jesse and the contract. Do we know what length of contract?
3.
They gave him 3. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yep. And I will. Kolodjashnij, I believe, is 3 as well. Stephen May's 5. Are you guys? Does that concern you? Considering I think it takes him to 31 or 32.
31.
31.
No.
Yep.
Because as someone pointed out, Brian Lake went to Hawthorn at 31 and then played in 3 premierships and won a Norm Smith.
Yep.
So,
and then competed on Survivor. So look forward to see Stephen May on the beach in Fiji in 8 years' time. Right. We'll move on to the next trade. That is, we gave Dom Tyson to North Melbourne for... what was it? It was Braydon Preuss and a 4th round selection, number 62. Thoughts on Tom? I'll go to Bimman. You can take the honours on Dom. Thoughts on losing Dom?
I mean, I've always been a Dom Tyson fan. I think the writing was on the wall when he couldn't get back into the centre where, I mean, I think it was noted widely. He struggled out on the wing on that outside wing player.
Yep.
But I think it's important to remember that he was in our best 22 when we had all of our key centre midfielder players fit and firing come finals. They didn't hesitate to bring him back after he broke his arm for the finals. So he was clearly a best 22 player. And again, it's sort of not quite the same as Jesse Hogan, but, you know, hopefully people don't fall for the trap of rewriting history and downplaying him. I think he will be really good, actually, for the Roos. It's a good pickup for them because he will go into the centre, and then they've got, you know, Cunnington, Higgins and Tyson will be a pretty good trio of extractors. But he was never going to get past Brayshaw, Oliver and Viney.
Yep, agreed. Nasha, you want to add anything to that?
No, spot on. And he was a valuable player through the beginning of the rebuild. So I think we've got a lot to thank him for, to be honest. Happy to see him go to a club where he'll probably play a role that suits him. Unfortunate that he was squeezed out of our starting midfield, but then again, I suppose you could argue it's not that unfortunate because it means we've upgraded. So, exactly. I'm happy with that. And Preuss, I mean, it's not the question you asked, but
that's all right.
But you know, an obvious need. That's the most obvious need out of any that existed on our list. So this is a true win-win trade for me, in my opinion. If we can get Preuss to play forward at all, which is also probably made easier by Jesse going, at the end of the day, both clubs get a player who will play AFL football, fill a need. They would have probably both been playing against each other at Casey if the trade hadn't have been done. So, win-win trade for me.
So we'll talk about Preuss now. Let's Grapevine, you got anything you want to add about Dom Tyson, the Dom Tyson side of the trade?
I agree with agree with Nasha that he was really important in those early years. And I know some people on Demon Land lament the fact that we missed out on Kelly, but I think Salem and Tyson was really important that we got those two players in. And Tyson played some really good footy in 2014. And look, everybody's bypassed him now and caught up to him and sort of pushed on. But I still think I sort of look at the way he played this year and even last year, and I can't reconcile his form of a few years ago with the player that we see now. I don't recall him being a slow decision maker back then, and I don't recall him sort of regularly turning the ball over. So I just wonder whether, what the reason is that he's off the boil. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Once he did get pushed out of his main role, that perhaps he felt a bit lost in the team, and that affected the way he played.
Now we'll talk about the Braydon Preuss side of the trade. It sort of baffled me initially as to why, and the media have said this a lot, why Braydon Preuss would have wanted to come to us, considering that at the moment there's no way he's going to push Max out of the number one ruck spot. But seeing, everything he's said since he's come over, he wants to learn under the best. So I really like that aspect of it. Do you guys think that he is going to fit into our best 22? Do you think we'll play two ruckmen, and having now with Jesse gone, having Preuss, one of them resting in the forward line? Bidman, I'll start with you.
I actually think it's a really interesting one, Preuss coming in. I agree it's a win-win, and just on those three trades, they were all done quickly, and again, that's, to me, like a good club does those trades. They didn't hold Kent up. There was no, let's see if we can squeeze another, second rounder or something. Mm. And they did the Preuss deal early. And I think I agree it's a win-win. I reckon it's really interesting, actually. I do wonder whether they might have had in their mind that the Hogan trade was going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're thinking of having him up as a forward. And my suspicion is that he will play more senior games than what people might think, because I've been saying for 3-4 years now, but Max Gawn is probably the most valuable player ever that I've followed Melbourne, in terms of, if you took him out of the team, our chances of winning a flag, or any game that he's playing. And he was exhausted. I don't know if you guys remember the Hawks game, but he got smashed in that game, and he was definitely tired against West Coast. Mm-hmm. He was flagging in the first quarter. So a long season. So I see Preuss playing a role, and I actually see him then maybe bringing him in every, not so much to give Gawn a chop out, but against certain teams, like when you've got, say, against Collingwood, where they've got the two bigs or the three bigs, that he might play maybe half the season strategically, and then sort of come up forward and play sort of a deep forward and swap chop out player. Because the other thing I think is interesting is that Vardy and what's the other, Lysette, they were terrific against Melbourne, I thought, and they were a big factor in the grand final as well, having those two big ruckmen. So I wonder whether that's influenced the thinking as well.
Yeah, I agree. The Fox Footy boys before this show didn't have him in the best 22, were saying that he'd play most of the year at Casey, and I couldn't disagree more. I think I agree with you, Big Man. I think he'll play more than bit roles strategically throughout the year, and I think we'll see him definitely in the pre-season. I think they're going to trial playing both of them. Maybe in the first game it'll just be Preuss, but I believe they will trial having both of them in the team just to see how it works, and we'll see more of that throughout the year. Nasha, thoughts?
Well, we just have to, sort of what Bin Man was touching on, I think we have to protect Gawn. There's no way we can go a whole another season where we can just allow him to just get absolute, to do that level of work, because, if he gets injured or he runs out of steam, firstly, we're not used to playing without him. If he does get injured, if we haven't actually had another ruckman spend a good body of time in there. And secondly, it just increases the chance that, if we get as far as a preliminary final or, if, in the best case, a grand final, you don't want to get there and have Max Gawn stuffed.
Yeah.
So I hope that he can contribute as a forward when he does play. That certainly means that it's costing us nothing to play him. But I think even if he struggles as a resting forward or anything like that, he's still going to have to play, do a good portion of the work throughout the year just to protect Gawn.
Grapevine.
Nothing to add to that. Agree with both.
The other thing about Preuss is he is a seriously, seriously big unit. He is huge. I remember he played I saw some of the game, one of those pre-season games that they played at Arden Street, I think. The first year he came down from Queensland. He's got a rugby background, I think. And so he was unbelievable in that match. He was smashing them, and the talk then was that Goldsmith wasn't going to be able to get past him. So I'm not quite sure what happened with his sort of North Melbourne career, but yeah, he's a big fella, and he'll crash some packs in sort of the style that Mumford sort of used to.
Now, I know everyone looks good in highlights. My 2 minutes of highlights are fantastic. But there's that highlight video that the D's put up, and he can mark and he can kick. Kicked a beautiful 60-metre goal. And he's a good tap ruckman. So, yeah, let's hope he learns under the best, which he will be, and hopefully get some game time, and I'm looking forward to it. Big man, anything else throughout the trade period you want to discuss?
No, I think it was pretty straightforward. As I said, I'm sad to see Jesse go. Who knows what. He obviously did want to get home. I read he talked about, his sister and brother have got kids, and, and I wonder if there's some other, he struggled. I think, though, as Nasher, I'd really like people to remember that he signed on at a time that I put on Demonland that, at a time when, you remember the energy he gave the fans, people like us who were, when he re-signed that first time, there was all the talk about him going then, but he stuck with us, and he came in under Neeld. Like, he did some seriously hard yards at the footy club, and I reckon there's every chance that he's said now he wants to go. The club said, well, it's a good time to go, and they would have kept him, I think, but that he's done the right thing. He waited to a time where he didn't stuff us around, and he's waited through a time where he isn't irreplaceable, which he would have been 2 years ago. If for no other reason, it would have crushed spirits, wouldn't it? If he'd left when he did extended last time, it would have been a shocker given where we were on our trajectory. The other thing, just before I go, is I reckon that point by Peter Jackson's a fantastic one about the warning he sounds about expecting just a linear improvement. So the logic for us would be the next linear improvement would be to make a grand final, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
A lot's got to go right. I said, I'm really looking forward to the drafting period. That's the time that I'm interested in watching those highlight packages so they all look like champions.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your contribution. It's always appreciated, and you've always got something interesting to add. So thank you very much for your call, and we'll see you on Demonland.
Fellas, go Demons.
Go those Demons. If you do want to join us, probably be ending it shortly. 0390163666. I just wanted to briefly just talk about. I've got to find the post here that I put up. Were quoted what Maxi said at the BNF. Nasha, did you watch any of the live stream of the BNF the other night?
I didn't watch it live, but I watched all the clips that came up afterwards. What quote were you referring to? Sorry.
Yeah, there was Maxi made a quote. There was a quote that he talked.
Email that he sent to everyone.
Yeah, he emailed everyone, and then he sort of read.
He said that.
I've got it here.
You
I've got
can't win a premiership in the off season, but you can definitely lose one.
All right. Well,
Yep.
I've got the quote here. He said, "Lastly, to the playing group, I hope you guys were watching on Saturday, referring to the grand final, and watching what could have been for us. And I genuinely hated watching it, and I hope every single one of you hated watching that game and found it really tough. And I hope you stayed and watched the celebrations like I did as well. Watch those West Coast guys get those medals and see what we missed out on, because all I do know is that our game plan stacks up on that day and the Melbourne person thrives on that day. That day has us written all over it. I hope everyone found it as difficult as I did to watch it and uses it as motivation going into the off-season. Premierships definitely can't be won over these next 2 months, but by geez, they can be lost. You've got decisions to make over the next few months, and I'm expecting a real tilt at this 2019 flag, because that's why we're all here to play footy."
Brilliant.
Yeah, I love that.
Gave me chills hearing it when Gorn said it, and it even gave me chills when you repeated it, Andy. So, yep, no, I love that. It's look, he says what he expresses what we all hope the players think.
Yeah.
And he's really eloquent as well. Like I just love that. It's fantastic.
His speech was 27 minutes, and not once did I think to myself, when's this going to be over? Because it was right at the end of the night. It was quite a long night. I thought it was a great night, but usually when someone gets up and speaks for 27 minutes, you sort of, when's this going to end? Not once did I even think that, and this guy has got a career after footy, and I couldn't be more proud of him for that. And it's not, we sponsor him, and I love the guy, but this guy, just wrapped that he first of all won the BNF, and I hope he takes out a Brownlow medal one day. Couldn't be prouder.
Nash is right though. What he said there, that is music to a supporter's ears. And once you have a critical mass of players that are thinking that and genuinely believe that, then you're in the serious part of the competition.
The other thing is with that speech, I think it shows a side to Max that we maybe don't see very often. Maybe Max the leader.
Yeah. Oh, did we lose you there? Might have lost Nasha for a second. Maybe you're still got you connected, but maybe your microphone has come out. Nasha, you there?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. I was just saying, perhaps it means that it was perhaps a side that we hadn't seen to Max before. This is serious business to him. It matters to him, and also a dose of leadership that we probably don't normally see. Normally, the face Max presents is the jokester and the clown.
Yeah.
But this was another level that I hadn't seen from Max before.
Yeah. And so that thing, that quote that I read, that was an email that he emailed out to all the boys as well. So he's a real leader. He's in the leadership group, and you can see why he is. And I'm really hoping that maybe he takes someone like Stephen May coming into the club under his wing when they sort of reconvene after their break, and get him fit like Max got fit. Would love that. Boys, anything else before we wrap it up here?
I have one quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
What's your favourite biscuit?
Well, in case anyone it doesn't get that reference, we had a Jesse Hogan trade to Freo thread. I think it made it to 400 pages. How many posts are on a page? About 20 or 30. on a page.
I think it's 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then throughout the time there was that running gag about biscuits. I don't know how it started, but it got to a point where I put an end to it. I don't often put my foot down, but I sort of did because it was making me very hungry, and I'm trying not to eat biscuits. But
well, the thread is now 425 pages long. That includes the deleted biscuit posts.
I don't think it was all deleted biscuit posts.
There are 10,438 replies in it, and it's been viewed 427,000 times. So that is astonishing. And look, I did write to the Guinness Book of Records, to their online forums division, and I did try to enter it in the longest trade thread category, but the biscuit posts
disqualified.
Were deemed to be spam, and we've been disqualified. So all you topic bumpers out there that sat in the Jesse Hogan thread for the past 2 weeks, you've ruined it all.
Does it compare to the how does it compare to the Jack Watts trade thread or
nothing nowhere near it,
or the total of all Jack Watts threads throughout his tenure at the Demons?
That's a different story. But I did look up if you remember the last time Jesse's contract was up in the air, we had the Jesse Hogan Panic Room,
yep,
which is now locked, of course.
Yep.
That only ran to 137 pages, so this one blew it out of the water.
Well, I must say that the period, the trade week period, and even because you've got the 1.5 weeks of trade week, but you've got that sort of week before the trade week where there's a lot of talk and speculation, and I think they have that trade radio going almost 24/7 in that week prior to the trade week. I must say that traffic for Demonland is bigger during that time than even during the year. It's like game day every single day during this period. So it is a popular time, and I'm sure the posts on Twitter and all social media is probably bigger than. So there's something about this trade weeks that is popular. So you can see why they're doing live telecasts for the last 2 hours of it, and you can understand it because there's obviously a big interest about trade week. Speculation. I don't know anything about the kids coming through, and because our picks are sort of in those high 20s, I guess we can't. I'm sure our draft team will pull rabbits out of the hat, but hopefully, I'm sure they've got their eyes on who they want to pick.
One of the names that's expected to go about around that time is a Dersma. And I believe it's a nephew of the great Jamie Dersma.
Yep.
Best known for taking the scalp of Sticks Kernahan at the end of the 80s there when Sticks was probably the best centre forward in the league. And
from Hawthorn, what's his name? Braydon, didn't he? Did he also... Was that him, Dersma? Remember we played...
No, Peter Rode used to do the job on Braydon.
So when we played...
Maybe Dersma had him before, yeah, possibly.
Remember we played them 2 weeks in a row and defeated them in
Peter Rode.
That was Peter Rode, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tony Campbell on Dunstall. And
yes, that's right.
Braydon.
Yeah. Very good. Boys, any other loose threads before we hang it up?
No loose threads, plenty of loose posters, including the whirlwind return and disappearance of Range Rover.
Yeah, yes, we did have a past poster, and I don't think he was ever banned off Demonland. I don't know. Nasher, can you confirm or deny? I think he just sort of went away, but he did make a return this week. And we might have lost Nasher again. Okay.
Nasher's disappeared too.
All right, he's probably talking and we can't hear him. Well, we might wrap it up there. That was our trade wrap up. We will return after the draft. Do you know when the draft is this year, Grapevine? It's late November, I believe, but
Yeah, it's usually sort of around the 20th or 25th.
Yeah, so we will return. I'm hoping that we got Jason Taylor on last year. I'll put the feelers out and see if we can get him back again this year. And if it's not him, I maybe possibly try and get Todd Viney. Josh Marnie would be great if we could. I'll see what I can do on that. But yeah, even if we can get Jason Taylor again, that'd be great, because he really gave up. Last year was a great insight into sort of the thinking of why we took who we took, and I sort of like that type of talk, and I think a lot of us.
It's over the 2 days this year. It's Thursday the 22nd of November and Friday the 23rd.
So we're not going to feature actually on that first day, because I believe the first day is the first round, the top 18 or 19 picks, and we're not in till a bit later on in the piece. So not much will be happening for us on that first day. But we'll certainly be involved on day 2. And then we'll wrap it up sometime. What days did you say it was? Was it Tuesday, Wednesday?
No, it's a Thursday and Friday.
Friday, all right. So
we're on the Friday.
We'll wrap it back up the next week at some point. So you can look forward to that. But thank you for listening to this show. You can follow us Facebook, facebook.com/Demonland31, Twitter @Demonland, Instagram @Demonland31. Search for us on YouTube, search Demonland Podcast, you'll find us, and you can listen to the interview that we did today with Peter Jackson, or any of the other interviews we've done, say with Paul Roos or Alan Jakovic, and a couple of other stars past and present of the Ds. Go to demonland.com and join us. People are discussing, just because footy season's over, everyone will still be there talking up the Ds well until through the draft and pre-season. When does our pre-season commence this year? It'll be a bit later this year. We've always got people going down to training and having a look and giving us a bit of an insight of what's happening in the pre-season. So, join us then. All right, guys, we're going to end it there. Bring out the music of Come On Demons. So, guys, go D's.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Dasha. Thanks, Great Viney.
Thank you.